Hi, this is Cheryl Walgie again from Astral Connections, and here with me I have Leonard Howell. Leonard is a shamanic intuitive, a counselor, a healer. He wears many hats. Thank you for joining us today, Leonard.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
So I met Leonard at an event at UBC. How long was that, about a month ago?
April 14th, that was about April 14th.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah. And he did a shamanic journey with us that day, and it was beautiful. And we decided that we wanted you to meet him as well. And so, Leonard, tell us something about yourself.
Well, I've been busy doing this kind of work for about 25, 30 years. My path started way back in the late 80s. I was actually really gifted as a child. I had angels that I would speak with and talk with, and I thought everybody had this same communication level of being able to speak with angels and guides. And then by the time I was about 9, I had a near-death experience, went to the realms, and it's there that I really received some very great intuitions. Strong abilities, and but I was very shy over my life to really share it and to bring it out, and it wasn't until it was in my 30s, late 30s.
So what was your first experience with the angels?
Well, about 5, I had this angel that I named, well, we called him Jonathan. He told me his name was Jonathan, and he was quite a bit of a spirit guide to me when I would get into different situations or I would need help.
And that was at age of 5?
Age of 5, and I would speak with him, and I had him for about 3 or 4 years, 5 years. And as I grew up, I always felt that he was always so helpful. I would be having some trouble at school, possibly a bully or something was going on sad. My grandfather passed on, and I asked my angel Jonathan if he would help me with that, and he did, and he was very real to me. And so in my late 30s, it was very easy for me to go back and just remember how that was, to just trust that feeling, that intuition that just came so naturally for me. And then I found that there was people everywhere I'd go, there would be people that so needed help, so needed that guidance, that counselorship that I could give them, because it was very natural for me. And so then as the years went on, I built more clientele, and everywhere I traveled to, I always was treated with such grace and such expectancy of having so much spirit. And sometimes I remember going one time to a healing session. A woman had cancer, and I went to her place, and she was able to see spirit. And she looked at me and she said, "There's 9 behind you." And there was 9 guides behind me as we walked into the door, and she began to cry a little bit. I worked on her, and she actually received the healing, and she went on to live a wonderful life.
Wonderful.
And so I said to her, it wasn't just me, there was 9 more of us.
Yeah, it was 9 more.
Yeah.
So that was the start of your communication with angels and guides, and it led to the 9 that joined you eventually. I guess over time.
Yes, and they became a group. And then I was in Penticton. I was at a ceremony, and I kept hearing this voice speaking to me, and they said, "We are Elijah. We are Elijah." And I didn't know exactly what we are instead of I am, and so I knew it wasn't me. And then finally, over a number of years, I finally realized that it was a group it was the group that called themselves Elijah. So just as the Hicks have Abraham, I have
Elijah.
We have Elijah, this group that works with us. And
it's very interesting that all these prophetic figures, if I may call them that, come as a multiple rather than individual.
And there was a chief amongst the works. The chief White Eagle was the main guide that I've worked with over the years, and of course all these elders, these ancestral elders and guides and angels that work together as this group. It just seems like there is nothing that we can't seem to work on. I know that I have their help and their guidance, and I have their support totally, because sometimes, as you know, sometimes these healing sessions or reading sessions can be quite deep, and things
intense.
can go back lifetimes for people. And you really do need that. You need that guidance. You need those ones that are ancient. They've been through the earth life many, many times. They've been through many incarnations, and they have that experience. They have that knowledge, that wisdom that we can't possibly have in one lifetime. So it's a great blending of ancient lifetimes that they have and that I have, and together we build a beautiful...
So now, you're a shaman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does it come to be that you're a shaman? Is it ancestral, or is
It's somewhat ancestral. It's sort of, you're somewhat chosen by spirit in the sense that you go through a series of life initiations. And you'll wonder, why did I go through these lessons? And some of these initiations are quite deep, and like I met up with a rattlesnake in Wyoming and went through a tornado, and sometimes it's not always that harsh, but they really want to see if you have that internal strength that you can work, because as you know, the word shaman is a word that means he or she knows. You absolutely know, and so that isn't something you just throw around. I'm a shaman. I rarely ever call myself that. I'm more of a practitioner, but perhaps somebody else talking about me might say, well, he does shamanic work, or he's a shaman. And it's an series of initiations that you finally go through, but it's really up to the individual to finally accept that gift, to finally accept that ability, because you are quite a bit of a medicine person, spiritual medicine person, but there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. And so it can't be taken lightly. It's not something that you would be one day and then not the next week. You would keep that as a lifetime. And my own ancestral teachings brought me to, first of all, the Sweat Lodge, and then a series of...
Can you talk a little bit about the Sweat Lodge?
Yeah, my first Sweat Lodge, I actually was in my adulthood. I didn't go as a child, even though I'm First Nations and Métis. It didn't happen until I was an adult. I had a Cree elder that him and his wife invited me to a beautiful workshop that they were doing, and there happened to be a beautiful sweat involved. And it was a little bit scary. It was exciting, but a bit scary in the sense I didn't know what I was in for. We helped actually build the lodge. We took the willows and put tobacco on the ground and did prayers and put the willows in. And even bending the willows, you had to ask the grandmother willow, "Is it all right, grandmother? Will you bend for us? We're praying in a good way." And you would ask in humbleness, and you'd bend that willow, and you'd be amazed at how much you could bend it, knowing that it wasn't going to break, and you just, but you're gentle with it. Finally, we built the lodge, and then we were all ready. We got smudged off, and we went in there, and incredible experience of spirit and healing, and I ended up being able to heal some very, very deep things around my own personal life. You know, my journey with my father, my journey of life, and initiations that I had gone through, and that's where it really began to be clear to me that I was going to be doing medicine work for the rest of my life, and that's where the first started. I knew then that I went, I listened hard, and I sat still, and I said, I know, my elder, I know that I am in for a journey. And then I was invited to a medicine wheel in Mission, and I was asked to come into the elders' teepee, and I wondered, out of all the people that were there, why was I being chosen? Why was I being pulled away? And I had this fish cooking over the fire, and it was a beautiful salmon I'd been given as a gift for working that day. And they came and they said, "Leonard, the elders want to talk to you." And I didn't know protocol in those days. I was new on the red road.
How old were you?
I was in my late 30s or something, but I didn't know about the protocol.
Right.
I didn't know that you could say, "Well, just hang on." I didn't know that you were supposed to say, "Okay, I'll be right there."
Right.
But anyway, in loving respect of the elders, I went, "Okay, I'm going to trust that somebody's going to finish cooking my fish." It was just beautiful. I had to stretch it out over the fire. And I went into the teepee, and there was a guard at the door, a warrior at the door, and he let me in, and I knew that when I sat in that circle, I knew that I was in for some powerful teachings. And we had a beautiful sharing, and I was able to sit with 13 elders, and it gives me goosebumps to this day to even just talk about it, and the initiations that happened that day when I took that eagle feather and held that eagle feather and promised that I would do my work as best I could, and always ask. The main thing was to always ask Spirit to bring me guidance, always ask Spirit to bring me support, so that I would never ever do this by myself. Ask my nation, ask the people that love me to support me in the work that I do, and that to never be the lone wolf or never to be the lone eagle again. And so I began to embrace the work and embrace being with groups of people, and because I was quite a bit of I like to wander and I like to do different things, and I wasn't always one for groups or community, and so it was quite an interesting change from being the lone eagle, I called myself, being the lone eagle, to all of a sudden being with community and being with people that were doing ceremonies. But as I opened to more of it and walked into that field, or walked
I guess
into
you
that.
start to feel the power of it.
Absolutely. Many times, like you say, the goosebumps on the goosebumps, and eagle bumps, we call them sometimes, and we would get many eagle bumps. You call them eagle bumps because they're bigger than goosebumps, but many times you realize that you were on the very edge or the precipice of something very, very great and wonderful to be a part of. Sometimes even, lots of times, larger than we are,
Right.
far larger than we are.
So talk to me a little bit about your experience then after your learning of being part of it, like when you were embarking on your own journey as a healer then.
I felt the biggest thing, I knew that what it felt like to have pain. I knew what it felt like to have ill health. And there was times in my life when I wasn't in the greatest of shape, and I sought out someone that could help me, a medicine person. And I always thought to myself, I would love for myself to do this work. I would love to be able to help somebody else because I've been helped. And there was times in my life where my life was almost saved because of a medicine person. And I always thought, I promised the Spirit, I would love to do this for other people. And not only do the healing work and the spiritual work, but also to build a sustainable world, to help the children, to help adults, to help elders. So many times I went to gatherings and helped with the elders, helped with food, went to the Sundance and supported that and supported ceremonies. And my wife would be the spoon keeper at the sweat lodges. The spoon keeper is the person who looks after all the food, but it's a sacred job. And so it was wonderful having a partner in life, having a wife that was so
Part of your vision.
Part of this vision, and we just grew it, and now here we are in 2012, and we just feel like we're exactly where we need to be, and being here is just awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're excited that you're here. So Leonard's going to be with us in June. Can you talk a little bit about your class that you're going to do and what that's going to be all about? Well, the event that we're going to create, or I'm going to be part of, is sort of a new event in a way that I was very shy to bring my gifts forward to people. And one of my gifts was to be able to channel spirit, or what we call in our teachings to become a hollow bone. And many times I was in lodges where the elder or the person pouring became a hollow bone, and they would actually channel spirit through and speak to people and give them messages. And I always thought that would be wonderful to do, but I'm just too shy to do it. And one day it came to me, and I started to speak, and many times my wife would receive messages, and she would always encourage me. She'd say, "Leonard, people need to hear this. I'm too shy." And she, they need to hear this. And so I finally opened to doing it publicly, and I would work with some people on a private basis, and then slowly I began to do it more and more publicly. What I'm going to be doing is I open myself to receive from Elijah and other spirit messages for people on a very short form basis. And each person draws, I have these cards set that are just beautiful. They're a beautiful card. They're called the Lakota Sweat Lodge card. And because the sweat has been such a big part of my life, these cards become a key, and each card has a strong meaning for itself. And so as that person draws that one card, I look at that card, and then I let myself go in, and spirit, and Elijah and spirit expand on what that card means for that person. And then, of course, if they want to expand on it more, they can
book a private reading. But in
fact, the private readings we're going to hold the day after.
yeah, that would be great. That would be wonderful, because there always is more questions. And what does Spirit mean by that? Or, it's great. And so it's a fun evening. It's a tear-filled evening. There's laughter and tears. And it seems like the one person seems to be the person receiving the message, seems to be a bit of a surrogate for all the other people. Sometimes people are a bit shy, like myself. They were shy to ask Spirit, or they're shy to ask something. And so Spirit knows this, and when they get us in a group, they can give something through you or me, or they can give something through someone else, and everybody receives it, and they go, oh, I know what that's all about. Oh, I'm glad they're getting it. I get it through them, and they feel good about that. So a group setting is nice. And of course, privacy and personal messages. You're not going to share something that's really ultimately really private for someone, but you can say a certain thing. The Spirit always lets me know if it's really confidential. They'll say to me, no, that's to be they'll quickly tell me that's to be in a private session. Something that might be very confidential for them. So we respect confidentiality. But it's always fun for them. It's always fun for everybody, and fun for me, because I feel like I'm growing at the same time they are, and we're all opening to Spirit. And I think that's what's really happened in our world, is that somewhere a long time ago we lost touch with Spirit. We were at one time as ancients. We had Spirit everyday occurrences all the time. It was a great part of our life, but somewhere we lost that connection, and now we're doing great ventures like yourself. You're inviting people to come and be with Spirit, and so I really love that. I love that the new world, that our new life has Spirit in it, that we're doing things with Spirit, so that we don't...
It's starting to come back.
Yeah, we don't get headstrong and do our own thing as a humankind, but we are also doing it in blending with Spirit.
Right. And Leonard, you're going to come back also to do a shamanic journey with our clients coming up. You've got to experience that. I had a great experience that day at UBC. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I have this beautiful flute. My flute is such a big part of my life, as you know.
You didn't bring it with you.
No, I thought we're just an interview, so I don't know why. I always carry that with me. But I will bring the flute and the drum.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to share with the audience? I've sort of exhausted my questions today.
The thing that I would like to share with the audience is that it's very, very important to stay true to your own intuition. That seems to be a theme that's come up for us a lot. To trust, to really intrinsically trust. That there are helpers and Spirit out there, angels, that are so willing. I always think of them like Maytag people. They're just sitting there waiting. I wish he'd call me. I wish he'd call me. And they're sitting in the realms just over here, and as we ask and as we open to that, they come in and they give us the most awesome, the most beautiful, kind, compassionate support that we can ever ask for. So that's what I'd like to impart on people, that don't be shy, don't hold back. You're not going to be laughed at, you're not going to be ridiculed like you had in the past. That it is a different time, and there are people out there now that have opened to Spirit, that have opened to the new ways, the new life, the red road, and that it isn't about having to do things by yourself. It's about joining in community. It's about sharing, like we say, sharing the dream.
Like when you walked in, you mentioned that on our calendar there's a lot of personality that you've known for many, many years and worked with. So this isn't anything new, really. It's been happening for years. It's just people are being introduced to it. Yeah, well, I noticed, I saw Rocky's name on the calendar, and I saw Richard's name with the runes, and I met Richard way back, and he's been doing the runes. Wonderful man. And so many of the people, Shalina, people that come here, and so many wonderful people, very dedicated to their walk, very dedicated to Spirit, and very dedicated to sharing the dream that we all share. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Leonard.
Thank you so much for having me. And we have in our language, the old language, we say toksha, which means that we will meet you again.
Absolutely, tosha.